Guys, in this video, I just thought we would take a few minutes to talk about how some of the technology in military firearms has changed over the years. This is basically a comparison between the 1911, which served the United States military from, of course, 1911 all the way up to the mid-80s. And the newest addition to the military sidearm, and that is the Sig Sauer P320, or I should say a version of it. This is a little bit different than what the military has. Basically, this firearm does not have the safety, the manual safety that the military version does. But other than that, it's pretty much the same gun. As we all remember, back in World War I, World War II, the 1911 was the sidearm carried by U.S. soldiers. It was the standard issue sidearm. This, of course, is my Rock Island. It is not in the same configuration as a military sidearm would be. This basically is a more modern adaptation of the 1911 firearm. But it is still a very good gun. It is still one that is favored by a lot of folks. There's a lot of companies out there that will manufacture 1911s basically in the same configuration as the soldiers carried. This particular firearm has an extended back strap or extended beaver tail on the back of it, compared to the original. Of course, the original 1911 carried by the military, then you could potentially get a little bit of hammer bite with those, which with the extended beaver tail and some of the newer features on the 1911s, those problems have been eliminated. Some of the reasons that the military obviously would change as technology changes, as the role of the military changes, as the role of their tools change. The 1911, of course, is a 45 ACP. The Sig 320, the M17, M18 is, of course, 9mm. And with that, you also get a difference in capacity for the 1911. The standard capacity is 7 rounds, of course 8 rounds with some magazines, more of the modern magazines. With the Sig Sauer P320, standard magazine capacity of 15 rounds. And as well as, up to 20 rounds depending on whether or not they're using the extended magazines. And of course, there is a huge difference in the weight between these two firearms. This, of course, is all steel. It is a very heavy gun. It is a firearm that, of course, with that 45 ACP, that heavy weight is going to soak up a lot of that recoil. But if you had to carry this all day, it is going to be noticed. Ounces or pounds, and the more weight that you have, the more that you are going to exhaust yourself. You got to really give it to those guys that carried the 1911 as well as an M1 into combat. That's a lot of weight those guys carried. The newer firearms, the P320 polymer, much lighter. It is a much lighter firearm compared to the 1911. Of course, there's a lot of debate between stopping power between the 45 ACP and the 9mm. That's a debate that everyone is on the internet has had at some point in time, I'm sure. Let me know your favorite down in the comments below. The reality is, on a military sidearm, it is basically going to be, it is not the primary weapon. Their rifle, their carbine, that is going to be the primary weapon. This is basically a backup weapon, for most of the folks in the military. And there again, the technology with it being newer these days, with getting higher capacity in a firearm that is going to serve as a backup weapon compared to what this one can carry, that's of course going to play into the choice as well. There's a lot of folks out there, and some in the military, that would prefer to go back to the 1911. I've had friends that have served in the military, some that have carried the 1911 as part of their service. I've had others that carried the Baretta M9 as part of their service, but wanted the 1911. They desperately desired to go back to the 1911. And even now, You have some folks in the military who are carrying the 320 that would still prefer the stopping power of that 45 ACP within the 1911. But, you know, that's just part of the debate that's out there. That's part of the conversation that we continuously have on firearms. And, you know, it's an enjoyable process. You know, it's something that we can all learn from. It's something that we can all, you know, benefit from in many ways. Typically, the military does not carry a lot of the newer technology and ammo that most concealed carriers do, most law enforcement do. Typically, they are carrying hardball ammo, just a standard, you know, 124 grain full metal jacket ammo is typically what the military would carry, which in that type of a configuration, if you're going to go just the ball ammo, the 230 grain ball 45 ACP, in my opinion, is a much better cartridge with a much better stopping capacity over the ball 9mm ammo. You know, of course, there again, that's part of the debate that is surrounding this. Both are a tremendous firearm. Us as consumers, we get to reap the benefits of all of the research and everything else between these two firearms. Of course, the 1911, it is a classic. It is a completely different design than most of the firearms that are out there today. If you were to buy a 1911 today, you know, it's going to really depend on the manufacturer that you get as far as the quality of firearm that you get. There is also a huge cost difference. You know, if you price a 1911 compared to something like this, something like the Sig Sauer P320, there is a significant price difference between these two firearms. You know, would be much more affordable than the 1911. Also, another big thing with the modular handgun system that the military went for, part of that is repairability. You know, if something happened to a 1911 that caused damage to the frame, the gun is basically ruined. I mean, you might be able to strip parts off of it and use on another firearm depending on what the damage was. So that's something to consider as well. If you damage this grip module on the Sig Sauer P320, you can simply take the grip module and easily replace it. I mean, you can find these things online. They're very affordable, easily replaceable for those of you all who are familiar with the platform. But guys, this is just a brief discussion on the technology changes over the years between the sidearms from early 1900s compared to today. You know, and that's what I wanted to make this video for. But guys, I know that there's still a lot of folks out there that would prefer the 1911. There are folks out there that would prefer something other than the 320. And then still, again, there's people that love the 320 as well. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out all of the links down in the description. Check out all of the videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.